How's it going, everyone? This is MindBlank. Welcome back to my channel, where today we are checking out 6 months of Polaris architecture progress. Yes, the 29th of December marks 6 months since the release of the RX 480 and the Polaris architecture. And all this time AMD have kept bringing us better software and better drivers, but today we get another boost in features and in performance, most of all in the form of Catalyst ReLive 16.12.1. So is it any good? Well, let's check it out. And by the way, this video is structured in 2 parts. The first part I talk about the driver and I walk you through the new features or the improved existing features, and in the second part I go through benchmarks of this new driver against the first driver that supported the RX 480, and that is 16.6.2. When I got the Sapphire reference RX 480, it was because I was tired of waiting for AB cards availability and decided to make my own card. Most of you might know this contraption. It's running an AIO liquid cooler from ID Cooling called the FrostFlow 240G. With this baby I managed to get a very cool and quiet card. Granted, I did have to use 7 volts for the fans instead of 12 volts for that extra quietness, but this made me lose only 2 Celsius during load. Right now I'm using this card as my main GPU. I built this thing to take Polaris for a spin, and the initial intention wasn't to keep it as a daily driver type of card. This is now, however, my main graphics card, and there's 2 reasons for this. First, there's the satisfactory performance at 2560 by 1080 ultra-wide that I'm running, especially at the overclock I was able to get out of it, and the second reason is FreeSync. My LG29 UC88-B comes with a FreeSync range of 40 to 75 Hz, which is spot on for the level of performance this card gives. Rarely do I swap my card to a more powerful GTX 1070, for example when playing Mafia 3. The main goal of this video is to compare the first driver that supported the RX 480, that's 16.6.2, and the latest Crimson ReLive 16.12.1. 6 months apart of software improvements between the two, so this should be worth something. But first, let's take a quick look at the new and improved driver. This is not a major GUI overhaul, but there are quite a few improvements. Let's start with a package. A larger download, but installation is quicker. The installer interface is new and more streamlined. Opening the control panel shows things look pretty much the same as we know them by now. We still have the additional settings menu, but now it only contains the color depth settings. Nothing new in the video tab as well, but in the display tab we see the custom resolution migration. This was previously in the additional settings menu, so this is a welcome sight to see and integrated properly into the main GUI. As you can see, there is a new tab, the ReLive tab. This has 4 main pages, so starting with global you get quite a few shortcut options here, as well as the save folder. Over in the recording section you get to choose from a set profile, or you can customize your own. The max bitrate you can choose is 60 megabits per second, and the recording FPS is limited to 60, but this should be plenty for all users. You also get the option to record in a different resolution than the one you're running the game at. Streaming is another big thing here. It integrates Twitch and YouTube with the option of custom streams. Again, decent number of customization options for built-in driver functionality. And last is the overlay tab, where you can add a custom overlay or choose from the options the AMD gives you. Hitting Alt plus Z brings up the quick menu where you can start and stop the recording, move the overlay, or take a snapshot. ReLive sounds nice, especially since it's still a low power way of recording your games. Typical loss of performance is around 2 to 3%, just like it was before with AMD GVR through the Gaming Evolved app. The thing is that I had a very bad experience with this new feature and could not get it to work for the life of me. I even tried reinstalling the driver multiple times, but the same problem appeared. You can see how choppy and unusable the capture is. This is how the game was running, by the way. It seems to have something to do with the overlay, as even with the capture off, it was still choppy until it disappeared. Same thing happened in Overwatch and Witcher 3. Probably too early to be asking for no issues at all, but we will see in the future. Switching over to the gaming tab, not much has changed again, but over in the global Wattman settings you can find a new feature called Chill. This option gives you reduced heat and power draw by dynamically adjusting the FPS while no user input is happening. This sounds pretty good actually, especially for energy conscious users or people that have too much heat output from their case. Another great addition is the OCAT tool, Open Capture and Analytics tool, which is basically an open alternative to FCAT and Frame Study, frame times, frame pacing, etc. I haven't taken this for a spin, but definitely will in the future. FreeSync gets improved functionality by supporting finally borderless full-screen applications. On top of this you get 24% lower click-to-response times when in borderless full-screen. Nice! VP9 decode acceleration is also here for 4K 60Hz. It is a GPU software implementation, so it should perform similar to fully hardware accelerated decoding. There's also DisplayPort HBR3 added on board that supports displays up to 8K. VR users should also be very glad to discover multi-res, which renders portions of the frames at different resolutions, meaning lower res for lower details and higher res for higher details. This of course improves performance for VR applications. Last but definitely not least is the performance improvements. I tested this on my i7-4790K at 4.6 GHz paired with 16GB of 2400 MHz RAM with a card overclock to its regular 1465 MHz on the GPU and 8500 on the memory. I did not test at stock, but it is obvious that the delta between these two drivers will carry on for whatever frequency you're running your card at. Looking at the slides, the driver promises quite a lot, and I know you are here mostly for the performance figures, so without tarrying any longer, let's see how this performs against the initial 16.6.2 driver. Firstly, there will be no GTX 1060 in this video. I'm focusing solely on the Polaris RX 480, I will have that comparison later. I gave up on using minimums for this benchmark session, and so you have 1% and 5% lows. For anyone wondering, these are a more accurate way of measuring bottom performance, and they show the average of the lowest 1% and 5% of frames. I will let you closely look at the benchmarks, and there will be a final slide totaling the performance deltas between these two drivers. This is a very good driver with performance improvements across the board. The only drop was 0.6%, so it could easily be considered measuring error. As you can see, averages sometimes don't tell us absolutely anything, like with Witcher 3, that essentially has the same average between these two drivers, but the bottom frames see a huge uplift. I am truly impressed by the development of this architecture in the 6-month span that we are looking at, and if we average the averages, we get a clean 5 to 7% performance improvement. Considering that this card is battling neck and neck with an overclocked GTX 1060, I will not be surprised if this will come out on top in the vast majority of the games in a few months' time. I am genuinely eager to see what AMD has in store as far as performance improvements from mature drivers in the coming months. This makes me anxious to also see what Vega is all about and to watch it mature in the first few months of its life. So AMD, just get the ReLive feature working better, cause heck, even without it, this is the best driver for the RX 480 out right now. Well, this was an eye-opener for me, and I really hope it was an eye-opener for you as well. If that is the case, then I really want to see your comments, questions and suggestions down below. And thank you for watching, thank you for supporting this channel by subscribing, and see you next time everybody, bye bye.